Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to do a special video in honor of Squid Game. Squid Game is more than just a captivating survival drama. It's a lens through which we can explore the harsh realities of our world. Beneath its gripping narrative and live or death games lies a brutal critique of economic inequality, human behavior, and the dark side of privilege. The series invites us to question how far people are willing to go when faced with desperation and how systems, both visible and invisible, shape their decisions. From the glaring disparity between the contestants and the wealthy VIPs, to the psychological dynamics of risks and the strategic alliances formed in each game, Squid Games mirrors many economic theories that exist in our world. Hello, my name is Enrique Alcaraz Roma. I am an economist graduated in the University of La Sorbonne in Paris, and in today's video we're going to do a little tribute to the series, trying to better understand poverty, power, human psychology, and the strategies that govern survival. I believe that today's video is going to be quite long, so let's start talking about poverty. Poverty is one of the biggest and most complicated problems in our world. In Squid Game, this reality is shown in a raw and powerful way, highlighting how people in desperate situations are forced to make impossible decisions. The series not only criticizes economic inequality, but also helps us understand poverty by exploring its causes, its effects on people, and how it continues to exist both in wealthy and poorer countries. First, let's break down what it really means to live in poverty. Actually, there are different types of poverties and definitions of poverty. The less severe poverty is situational poverty. In this case, it's a normal family that, because of a crisis, because of a sudden event like a natural disaster, maybe you got fired from your job. This creates a hard situation for you and your family. That's called situational poverty. Usually this is temporary. You will find another job. You will find other ways to recover your money, and you won't be in this state forever. The second less important poverty that exists in our society is relative poverty. That's when somebody can afford to live at the average standard of their society, even in rich countries. This is calculated by, it depends on the country, but usually it is set on 50% of the average salary. So let's say that the average salary in the United States is $100,000 a year. This means that if you are receiving less than $50,000 per year, you're going to be considered relatively poor. You're not necessarily poor, absolutely poor, but you're living below the average standard of your society, of your country. It depends on the country because the GDP in the US is not the same as the one in Spain, for example, or Mexico, but still, you're considered below average, so poor. In this case, passing to the third point is absolute poverty. That's when people don't have basic needs like food, clean water, or housing. This is the case of many people, homeless people, here in France, in Spain, in the US, everywhere in the world there's homeless people. That is considered absolute poverty. But there's something even worse, that's generational poverty. That's this situation from one generation to another generation, and nobody is able to escape that. Finally, the most severe poverty that exists is extreme poverty. That is set by the United Nations, and this means living on less than $1.90 a day. This is not usual to be seen in the first world countries, like the countries in Europe or the US, but mostly on developing countries, like the ones on Africa, maybe South America. That is not that much usual, but you can also see in South America and Asia too, depending on the country. Even in highly developed countries like South Korea, around 16% of the population lives below the relative poverty line. That means that millions of South Koreans are struggling to get by despite living in one of the strongest economies. This reality is reflected in Squid Game's characters. Ji-hoon, for example, represents people trapped in debt due to predatory lending and unstable jobs, which is a common problem worldwide. Ali, on the other hand, shows the struggles of migrants facing wage theft, lack of legal protections, and being excluded from social safety nets. These examples highlight how unfair systems keep people from escaping poverty, and this is exactly what causes generational poverty. This problem isn't limited to developing countries. Even in rich nations, there are communities living in fourth world conditions. Fourth world conditions means people living in third world poverty, but in the first world countries. These are often ethnic minorities, migrants, or families stuck in cycles of generational poverty. In cities like Seoul, some neighborhoods with poor housing and limited services resemble extreme poverty found in developing countries, creating a stark contrast between the wealthier districts and the poorer districts. Poverty doesn't just mean lacking material things, it deeply affects people's psychology. In Squid Game, we see this in how characters make decisions. Ji-hoon, for example, returns to the deadly game because his life outside is just as desperate. Studies show that poverty creates a scarcity mindset where people focus only on short-term survival and can't plan for the long term. This explains why people sometimes make choices that seem irrational, that they're just trying to get through the day. South Korea's rapid economic growth has created big inequalities. A competitive job market and easy access to debt have left many families in constant financial stress. Globally, over 700 million people live in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day. This represents around 10% of the total population in the world. This is a lot. But even in wealthy countries, millions of people known as the working poor have full-time jobs, yet still can't afford basic necessities. Poverty also has a tasting impact on future generations. Without access to good education, healthcare, or job opportunities, families often stay stuck in a cycle of poverty. In Squid Game, Seo Bae-yeok's story shows this reality. She risks everything to give her younger brother a better life. Many families in poverty make these sacrifices, prioritizing their children's future, even when it means taking extreme risks. However, poverty isn't just an individual problem. It is the result of systems that benefit the few while leaving many behind. In the series, the Golden Mask VIPs symbolize a wealthy elite disconnected from the struggles of the poor. The good news is that poverty can be addressed with real solutions. Programs like universal basic income, free access to education and healthcare have successfully reduced poverty in many parts of the world. By focusing on structural changes, we can create a fairer society where everyone has a chance to succeed. Continuing on the narrative of the VIPs, we need to say that this harsh reality not only affects those who live in it, but it is also manipulated and observed by those in positions of power, as represented by the VIPs in Squid Game. In Squid Game, the VIPs are portrayed as a mysterious and powerful group. They hide behind golden masks and watch people suffer, treating it as entertainment. This idea of a wealthy elite, so disconnected from reality that human lives are just a game for them, feels unsettling, but is not just fiction. It raises questions about whether something similar happens in the real world. The VIPs in the show represent more than just wealth. They are so far removed from normal life that they find amusement in watching others fight for survival. This reflects how some real-world elites are often accused of staying hidden while watching the struggles of ordinary people from a safe distance. Groups like the Bilderberg Group or the World Economic Forum, where influential figures meet behind closed doors, fuel the idea that the wealthy observe global problems like spectators at a show. While these meetings are supposed to address big issues, some believe that they are really about keeping the rich in control. One of the scariest parallels is how the VIPs in the show enjoy watching suffering as entertainment. In real life, it is often said that the ultra-wealthy are shielded from crises like economic recessions or wars. For example, just before Russia invaded Ukraine, many private jets left Kiev, carrying elites to safety while the general population stayed behind to face the uncertainty. It's a reminder of how wealth can provide safety, leaving the rest of society to deal with the fallout. The role of entertainment as a distraction is another theme. In Squid Game, the VIPs enjoy their twisted form of amusement, completely detached from the morality of what's happening. Similarly, in the world, mass media can act as a tool to keep people distracted. By controlling what we watch or talk about, elites can shift attention away from bigger problems, helping them maintain their positions of power. It raises a troubling question. Is modern entertainment designed to keep us occupied, just like the games in Squid Game? The idea of anonymity also stands out. The VIPs hide behind masks, making them untouchable and unaccountable for their actions. In real life, many wealthy individuals and families prefer to stay out of the spotlight while influencing events from behind the scenes. Groups like the Bilderberg Club, which brings together powerful figures from politics and business, are often accused of making secret decisions that benefit a selected few. Whether true or not, the lack of transparency creates mistrust and strengthens the idea that these elites are untouchable. In the show, the VIP's complete disconnection from humanity of the contestants mirrors the divide between the ultra-wealthy and the rest of the society. Their actions aren't driven by need, but by boredom. They already have everything they could ever want. This reflects on how some elites, protected by their wealth, might ignore the struggles of everyday people. Instead of addressing issues like poverty and inequality, they remain spectators, unaffected by the consequences of systems they benefit from. But how much of this is reality and how much is a myth? The idea of a secret group controlling everything may sound dramatic, but the truth is more complex. Power isn't always centralized, and even the elites compete among themselves for influence. Still, the secrecy around their actions and the perception of their detachment keep the idea alive that they watch the world's struggles like the VIPs in Squid Game. While the VIPs observe from their positions of privilege, the decisions made by the contestants reflect the impact of pressure, fear, and uncertainty on the human mind. In Squid Game, we see how pressure, fear, and uncertainty can deeply affect the way that people make decisions. Behavioral economics is all about understanding why people act the way they do, especially when emotions and biases come into play. Unlikely traditional economics with Marx, Adam Smith, Ricardo, which assumes that people always make logical choices, behavioral economics accepts that we're not always rational. Our emotions, fears, and even the way information is presented can impact our decisions. In Squid Game, the psychology of risk is a big part of what makes the show so intense. The contestants constantly face life or death decisions, and the way they react shows just how much fear and desperation can affect our choices. When the stakes are that high, staying calm and thinking clearly becomes incredibly hard. Take the glass bridge game, for example. The players have to cross a bridge made of glass panels, some strong enough to hold their weight and others that will shatter. As they approach, you can see the hesitation and fear taking over. Many freeze or second guess their steps, terrified of making the wrong move and falling. This is a great example of how fear can completely overwhelm rational thinking in stressful situations. But then suddenly there is one contestant who stands out. He happens to know how to tell the difference between tempered glass and regular glass because of his background in working with glass. That knowledge gives him a huge advantage. He doesn't have to rely on luck or panic like the others. Instead, he can make smart, calculated decisions while everybody else is guessing. It shows how having the right information can make all the difference when you're faced with a risky situation. This doesn't just apply to Squid Games. It's something we see in real life too, whether it's making decisions in business, investing, or even personal challenges. Having a good understanding of the risks and the right information can give you a major edge. For example, someone who knows the financial market inside out is better equipped to make smart investments than somebody who's just guessing. That's why banks make so much money in in the financial markets. The same goes for any other situation where being prepared and informed can help you avoiding costly mistakes. The Glass Bridge game really drives this point home. It's a perfect mix of fear, hesitation, and the power of knowledge. And it's a reminder that while we can always avoid risk, being prepared and knowing what we're dealing with can make a world of difference, especially when the stakes are high. Another one of the most interesting themes in Squid Games is the illusion of control, the belief that we have more power over a situation than we actually do. In the show, the contestants desperately try to take control of their survival by forming alliances, manipulating others, or coming up with strategies to gain an edge. At first, these efforts seem to work, but as the game goes on, it becomes obvious that this sense of control is just an illusion. The rules are designed in such a way that no matter how smart or strategic the players are, randomness, unexpected twists, and sheer luck play a huge role in deciding who survives. This is reflected by this guy who tries to seek equality amongst all players all throughout the game. The contestants realize that they are at the mercy of a system much bigger and more powerful than they are. Their survival often depends less on their actions and more on forces completely out of their hands. This idea isn't just limited to Squid Game. It's something we see in real life too. Think about how often do we overestimate our ability to control uncertain situations. For example, people might think they can predict the stock market, avoid accidents, or guarantee success just through planning and effort. While preparation is important and effort is also important, there is always external factors like economic changes, random events, or systems beyond our control that can completely shift the outcome. This false sense of control can make us feel secure, but it also leads to frustration or even despair when things don't go as planned. In Squid Game, the illusion of control is a powerful reminder of how fragile our sense of agency can be. It shows us that no matter how much effort we put in, there are always larger systems, unpredictable forces, or random events shaping the outcomes of our lives. Some of us call it luck, some of us call it God, some of us call it life. But it also highlights the importance of being adaptable and accepting what's beyond our control, whether in a deadly game or in everyday life. The third thing that involves behavioral economics that I want to talk about that happened in Squid Game is the prize money. The prize money is more than just a reward, it's a psychological weapon that completely shapes how the contestants think and act. That massive pile of cash sitting in the transparent piggy bank isn't just there for decoration. It's a constant reminder of what they could win, and it pushes the players to make decisions they might never consider in any other situation. They betray their friends, take extreme risks, and justify actions that would usually feel completely wrong. All because they can stop focusing on that growing jackpot in a fucking transparent piggy bank. This is a classic example of something called anchoring in psychology. Anchoring is when a specific piece of information, like the prize money, gets stuck in your mind and shapes the way you see everything else. For the contestants, the piggy bank becomes the center of their world. Every decision they make is compared to the dream of winning all that cash. It clouds their judgment, making it easier for them to ignore just how dangerous the games really are. A perfect example of this happens in Season 2. Even after seeing how deadly the games are, the contestants vote to play just one more game.
한 판 더! 한 판 더! 한 판 더! 한 판 더! 한 판 더!
Why? Because the sight of that giant pile of money makes them focus on the potential reward, not on insane risks they're taking. And We can relate this to the theory that we explained before, the illusion of control. They think that player 456 has any control because he has already been in that game. So they're trying to gain an edge. But we see how the system is made for them to go wrong because the games are completely different from Season 1. But well, that's how powerful anchoring can be. It makes them less aware of the consequences and completely obsessed and blind with the possibility of winning. Some of us may think that this only happens in fiction, but we actually see this kind of thing happen in real life all the time. For example, when you see something on sale for 50% off, it's easy to focus on the discount and convince yourself that you're getting a great deal, even if you don't really need the item. Or in negotiations, the first offer often anchors the discussion, even if it's totally unrealistic. And people adjust their decisions based on that starting point. That is actually a manipulation technique that Machiavelli studied. We over-exaggerate the first offer, so then people are more disposed to accept a second offer that's actually lower, even if that second offer is way above what they were thinking initially. In Squid Game, the prize money acts as that anchor, keeping the players hooked on the dream of winning, while distorting their sense of risk and morality. It is a powerful reminder of how something as simple as a pile of cash, or even the idea of it, can dominate our thinking and lead us to make choices we'd never imagined in normal circumstances. In the end, Squid Game is just a powerful look at how humans behave under extreme uncertainty. It shows how emotions, survival instincts, and group dynamics all come together to shape decision making. Watching the show can even make us reflect on how we respond to risks in our lives. However, these individual decisions do not occur in isolation. They are deeply influenced by collective strategies and competitive dynamics, as analyzed through the game theory. Game theory is a way to analyze situations where the decisions of one person depend on what the others do. It is using in economics, politics, and psychology to understand the things like conflict, competition, and teamwork. In Squid Game, game theory helps us understand the contestants' choices, alliances, and betrayals as they face life or death challenges. One of the most famous concepts in game theory is the prisoner's dilemma, which is often used to understand how people make decisions in situations involving trust, cooperation, and self-interest. Here is how it works. Imagine two people are arrested for a crime and are being interrogated in separate rooms. They are each given the same choice: confess and betray the other, or stay silent. The outcomes depend on what both of them decide to do. First of all, if both stay silent, they will each get a light sentence because the police don't have enough evidence to convict them heavily. The second option is if one confesses and betrays the other one and the other stays silent, the betrayer goes free, while the silent one gets a heavy sentence. If both confess, and that's the third option, they both receive a medium sentence. The dilemma lies in the fact that betraying seems like the safest option for you, regardless of what the other person does. If you betray, you might go free, or at worst, get a medium sentence. But if you stay silent and the other one betrays you, you face the worst possible outcome. So, even though the best outcome for both is to really stay silent, the fear of betrayal makes most people confess. In this case, we need to say that this scenario is based on one simple principle: not knowing what the other guy is going to say. And then it comes into play asymmetrical information. In this case, imagine if that's your father and you know that your father is not going to betray you, and your father knows that you are not going to betray him no matter what. No matter what happens in earth, none of you are going to betray the other one. In this case, you can get the optimum decision for both. But that's not really the case in most situations. In most situations, you're going to betray your teammate. This scenario actually highlights the tensions between self-interest and mutual benefit. On one hand, cooperation, in other words, staying silent, leads to a better outcome for the both of you. On the other hand, self-interest, so confessing, feels like the safest option for each person individually. So are you going to think of the good of the group or to save your ass? Actually, the prisoner dilemma is a powerful tool to study how trust and fear influence decision making. Now let's connect this to Squid Game. In the marble game, contestants face a real-life version of the prisoner's dilemma. They are paired up and initially think they will work as a team to survive. But then, the rules reveal a brutal twist. One of them must win all the marbles to survive, meaning that the other one will lose and die. This forces each player into the same dilemma. Should they trust their partner and cooperate, or betray them to secure their own survival? Ali's trust in Sang-woo is a textbook example of this tension. Ali believes in Sang-woo's plan to work together, trusting that they can both find a way out. But Sang-woo, driven by fear and desperation, betrays Ali to save himself. This moment captures the heartbreaking reality of the prisoner's dilemma. Even when trust seems like the right choice, the fear of losing everything can push people to act selfishly. In real life, the prisoner's dilemma plays out in many situations, from business negotiations to political alliances. It reminds us that while cooperation often leads to the best outcome for everyone, fear and self-interest can make trust incredibly fragile. The second game theory that we're going to talk about today is zero-sum games. They are a key concept in game theory and describe situations when one person's gain is directly tied to another person's loss. In other words, the total resources or outcomes in the game are fixed. If one player wins, the other one must lose an equal amount, leaving the sum of gains and losses at zero. This type of interaction often creates intense competition, as participants know that their success can only come at the expense of someone else. A classic example of the zero-sum game is a competitive sport, like a tennis match. For one player to win the match, the other one has to lose the match. It is impossible for both to win at the same time. Similarly, zero-sum dynamics appear in bidding wars or auctions. The higher price one bidder pays to win a product directly reduces the chances of others getting it. Unlike cooperative games, where players can work together to create mutually beneficial outcomes, zero-sum games leave no room for collaboration. Because the pie cannot grow, players are forced to act in ways that maximize their own share while minimizing the share of others. This makes zero-sum games particularly cutthroat, as participants are incentivized to outplay their opponents. The Mingle Challenge in Squid Game Season 2 is a vivid example of a zero-sum game.
환영합니다. 이번 게임은 짝짓기 게임입니다.
In this game that works quite similar to musical chairs, once the music and carousel stop, the players must find a specific number of people following the game orders. Once they find the right number of players, they must race to enter one of the 50 rooms scattered around the hall. This game goes on for 5 rounds and each room is surveilled so the players cannot cheat. Each contestant's survival is tied to the choices made by others. If there is already a group in the room that you're getting into, you're getting fucked. So in this way, the challenge forces players into a brutal zero-sum game where winning means directly benefiting from someone else's failure. In real world, we often see zero-sum dynamics in competitive markets or resource allocations. For example, even in my own working sector, that's trading actually, apart from YouTube, I mainly do trading. If I win, it's because somebody else has lost. Oh well, I hope you could more or less comprehend what zero-sum games are. Finally, the third game theory that I want to talk about that really happens in Squid Game is asymmetric information. It occurs when one party in a situation has more or better information than the others. This Imbalance can significantly affect decisions and outcomes because the party with more information holds an advantage, holds an edge in comparison with the others. Asymmetric information is common in many real-world scenarios from business to finance and healthcare, and even personal relationships. Here's how it works. Imagine a buyer and a seller. If the seller knows that there's a defect in that product that the buyer doesn't, the seller can take advantage of that knowledge, potentially overcharging the buyer or selling something of lower quality. Actually, asymmetric information is key. This gives them an unfair advantage over the others who don't have the same access. Usually with asymmetric information comes two concepts actually that are adverse selection and moral hazard. In this case, adverse selection is when one side lack of information leads to unoptimal results. In this case, let's put a very clear example. Imagine that you're trying to get a health insurance and your family, your whole entire line has had cancer at some point of their lives. Probably the insurer is going to put a higher price in your insurance because you have a higher risk of having cancer. So in this case, if the insurance company knows this is going to be a problem for you. On the other hand, moral hazard happens when you know you have an insurance and knowing that you are willing to act more recklessly because you know that if you get hurt, you're going to get medical attention. In this case, this can go both ways, but these two concepts are related to asymmetrical information. If we connect this to Squid Game, I can think of a very clear example in Season 1, again, the glass bridge game. In this case, we got this last guy who knows exactly if the glass is tempered or if it's not tempered. For most players, it's a deadly guessing game, but one contestant reveals that he has specialized knowledge. This gives him a huge advantage, allowing him to make informed choices, while others rely solely on luck. In real life, asymmetric information plays out in similar ways. If you know more than the other person, you can actually manipulate that person, or you can actually make everything more convenient for you. The lesson here is clear. When information isn't shared equally, the balance of power shifts, often creating unfair or exploitative outcomes. Squid Game dramatizes this concept, showing how even small advantages in knowledge can mean the difference between life and death. Finally, the last game theory that appears a lot in Squid Game that I've noticed is tit for tat. This is a fundamental strategy in game theory that revolves around the idea of reciprocity. In other words, you help me and I help you. It is a simple yet a highly effective way to foster cooperation, especially in situations where people interact rapidly over time. In this case, if I help you first, then if we keep interacting over time, you will have the chance to help me after. So that's a bit the idea. This creates a good cycle where people are encouraged to work together again, even after conflicts arise. However, tit for tat is not foolproof. In high-pressure environments or situations with unequal stakes, the strategy can break down. If trust is fragile, a single betrayal can spiral into an ongoing cycle of retaliation, undermining cooperation, and bad vibes in general, let's say like that. In Squid Games, we see the tit for tat strategy play out in alliances formed between contestants. Early in the series, players work together based on reciprocal behavior. They help those who have helped them, and other things. The limited resources and life or death scenarios create tensions between short-term gain and long-term relationships. Sang-woo's betrayals, for example, especially against Ali, show how tit for tat can fail when fear and desperation override trust. This betrayal highlights how fragile trust can be in high-pressure environments where even the strongest alliances can collapse. In real life, tit for tat is often seen in business partnerships. diplomatic relations, and even in everyday interactions. For example, in business, companies may collaborate by sharing resources or promoting each other's product, knowing that mutual support benefits both parties. However, if one side acts selfishly, like stealing clients or withholding resources, the partnership may break down, leading to the end of cooperation. In summary, Squid Game is a fascinating case study for game theory. It explores key ideas like the prisoner's dilemma, the zero-sum games, and asymmetric information, showing how people make decisions in high-stakes situations. By looking at these dynamics, we can better understand, comprehend what drives human behavior. Game theory offers insights that can help us navigate complex situations more effectively. While game theory helps us understand strategic decisions in competitive environments, it also puts light on how people can be manipulated. In the crypto world, this manipulation often takes the form of scams. I've personally been in the crypto industry since 2021, almost 4 years learning and investing not only in Bitcoin, but in other coins as well. And I must say that cryptocurrency revolutionized the way that we think about money, investments, and financial systems. However, this new frontier has also opened the door to a darker side, crypto scams. These scams have become increasingly common, preying on individuals eager to join the crypto wave, but unaware of the risks involved. They're actually very present in Season 2 with Player 333, an influencer that promoted a cryptocurrency that resulted into a scam. But you should not blame in this case Thanos or any other victim, or even the influencer. Everybody can be a victim of a crypto scam. And this is why I believe it is important for me to do this last section of this video, that's crypto scams. One of the main reasons why crypto scams are so prevalent is the nature of cryptocurrencies themselves. Decentralization and anonymity, two main principles of blockchain technology, make it difficult to trace transactions and recover stolen funds. This lack of accountability creates an ideal environment for scammers to operate. Furthermore, the crypto market is unregulated compared to traditional financial systems, leaving investors with fewer safeguards. FOMO, the fear of missing out created by the potential gains, also plays a significant role, as many individuals rush into investments without conducting proper research, making them easy targets for fraud. Crypto scams take many forms, but some of the most common include rug pulls, Ponzi schemes, fake exchanges, phishing scams, and pump and dump schemes. So it's a very dangerous world actually if you don't know what you're doing. In this case, in the series, what we see is a rug pull. Rug pulls occur when developers launch a new cryptocurrency, pump its value through marketing, hyping, and suddenly they actually disappear with investors' money.
And you are? I lost hundreds of millions because of your shit advice. Anyways, thanks to you, you and I really bought.
Did I force either of you to invest in Dalmatian?
You fucking.
As I said, this is the case of the cryptocurrency promoted by Player 333 in the series, and it is kind of funny because in real life we can find a clear example with the Squid Game token. Back when Season 1 came out, Squid Game token was a new token, a new meme coin based on the show. Many investors invested their money hoping that with the hype of the series, the cryptocurrency would pump. But that was actually not the case. What the developers or the creators of that currency did was cash out the totality of money that people put in that cryptocurrency, and they left investors with worthless tokens. In this case, developers stole over $3 million with these scams. And actually, these scams usually have red flags that are very avoidable, such as, for example, anonymous developers, unrealistic promises, and centralized holdings. So the developers hold the majority of tokens. Then there is a second type of scam, that's Ponzi schemes. What these schemes do is they promise a high return by using funds from new investors to pay earlier ones. So if somebody gets in this investment, he has to bring in 2 other friends that will pay his rentability, his profit. In this case, the clearest example in the cryptocurrency world of this type of scheme is BitConnect.
So what's up, Big Connect?
BitConnect is the most famous scheme, as I said, because they defrauded investors over $2 billion. Furthermore, in this channel, I'm going to talk about this more precisely because it's an interesting story overall. A very typical way of scamming is for fake exchanges and wallets. Scammers create platforms that mimic legitimate crypto exchanges or wallets, making their users to deposit their funds in these, and once the funds are transferred, the scammers vanish. Usually, there is an also kind of a scam related to this that's phishing. And in this case, the scammers send you an email, call you, or any other way contact you to send you a link willing to discover your private seed, your private keys, the password to your funds. In this case, I have a solution for you, and I would recommend you to store your money in a safe place. And this safe place is called a cold wallet. A cold wallet is a type of crypto wallet that stores your digital assets offline, making it much safer from hacking or phishing attacks compared to wallets connected to the internet that are called hot wallets. I personally use one from the company called Ledger. More precisely, I use this one, the Ledger Nano S. That is actually, it looks like a pen drive, USB, let's say like that. It looks like this. And not exactly here, but thanks to this, I can access my funds that are offline. That's the best part. This makes your assets almost inaccessible and unhackable. This is not a paid promotion. I'm just a tiny channel. But I leave you an affiliate link down there if you want to check it out. And you actually would help me to develop more this channel. Finally, the last scam type or the last scam scheme that I'm going to introduce you is the pump and dump schemes, that they are very common recently and that they are very often seen in social networks. Pump and dump schemes exploit the volatility of the crypto market. Scammers artificially inflate the prices of a cryptocurrency by spreading and misleading information, usually in Telegram, but you can also find it in Instagram. And once the price peaks, they start selling everything they have and they basically steal your money. They grab your money and they put it in their own pockets. This is like the tit for tit game that I talked about before. How would I avoid this? Don't trust any kind of groups or people that promise like exponential gains, because probably they get those gains but because they steal your money. Actually, crypto scams pisses me a lot because the impact of crypto scams is not limited to financial losses, but they also break the trust in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. Actually, I believe that the blockchain can be actually the future of transactions and the future of money. However, understanding these scams can help us, individuals, and even institutions to develop strategies to avoid them. But as always, until those strategies arrive, the best thing that you can do is to be informed, to have knowledge. Be cautious, especially with social media. Don't trust anything. Be smart. Be smarter than them. And remember, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I hope you don't end up like them. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you liked the special format in honor of Squid Games. If you did, please let it know down in the comments by dropping a like down there. And as always, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel to learn more about economics, sometimes through special ways, like today we had the chance to. And as I said before, stay safe. Don't trust a random man wanting to play the Daki with you. See you in the next video.